Hello everybody, how are you all doing? Welcome back to Man City Unplugged, your very own Man City fan channel. There are so many doubts, so many questions, coming into this international break for us. I mean, looking at the points table, it might seem that we are comfortably second. I mean, just 1 point behind Arsenal, and that is not at all a big deal. And if you watch how rival fans, how rival media outlets are reacting to this season, they're almost telling that now Liverpool has kind of, dropped off a bit. Maybe can Arsenal compete with City or Spurs and Arsenal? The major challenges for City. Are City gonna run away with the league even this time round? And well, in the last 4 5 seasons, when is it that we have run away with the league? Liverpool have always competed with us. I think it was only in the Centurion season, right? So I mean, it's not as rosy and it's not as green and clean like all the rivals are projecting us. There are some issues. There are some blatant issues that Pep will be breaking his head around, especially with the derby coming up and important games coming up in October, with October set to be packed and everything like that. But Julian Alvarez for me is the center point of these issues. People are making it look like Jack Grealish is the center point of all our problems. I mean, not problems, but the center point of our strategic thinking. But it's not Grealish, it's Julian Alvarez who's the center point of it. I mean, just imagine if Jack Grealish was having a price tag of what, 40, 50 million pounds. Would the media and would everyone put the same pressure on Grealish? The answer is absolutely no. It's just that Jack Grealish is inflated due to his price tag. That's all. Pep Guardiola and City are not in a hurry, to have Jack Grealish performing at his best. It's not like that we are a team on the downward spiral and we have pinned all our hopes on Jack Grealish, for example. No, that's not the case. He's not even in the center of our strategic thinking, and we have spoken at length over on Jack Grealish yesterday as well, and in a couple of videos before. But Julian Alvarez, for me, is the player who will be at the strategic center of Pep Guardiola's thinking now that October has arrived. I mean, every game when the lineup is announced, I'm sure that all of the City fans do that as well. We look at it, we are always searching for the name of Julian Alvarez, especially after that Nottingham Forest match, especially after what he did against Crystal Palace and stuff like that. And we are just scratching our head. Why is Julian Alvarez not in the starting lineup? Why do you want to give Jack Grealish more of a chances than Julian Alvarez, for example? Why are you picking Riyad Mahrez in some cases ahead of a Julian Alvarez? It's just us scratching our heads. But I just think that Pep Guardiola maybe is thinking about Julian Alvarez in a much more strategic manner than what we fans are actually thinking. Because the real question here is it's not why is Pep Guardiola not playing Julian Alvarez, but the real question is what does Pep Guardiola think is the best position for Julian Alvarez? Where does Pep Guardiola think Julian Alvarez can contribute his maximum qualities to this system? It's not about getting 100% from a player, but it's about getting the best qualities from a player so that it helps the system 100%. So that's how it's been with Zinchenko. That's how it's been with Fabian Delph in the past. That's why we didn't want Cristiano Ronaldo here, for example, because Ronaldo would have got goals, but he would have not helped the system. So I'm just wondering, because Julian Alvarez has played so well on the wing, right? So why don't you start him on the wing? Someone scores two goals, one left foot, one right foot, two very tough goals, excellent finishes against Forest on the bench. Someone helps you in the game against Crystal Palace, next game on the bench. Someone helps you rescue the act against Dortmund after half time. Julian Alvarez completely transformed the game against Dortmund on the bench next game. So, I mean, what is it that Julian Alvarez is getting few minutes? I mean, in the press conference of Pep Guardiola was interesting. Before the Wolves game, especially, I think Wolves in the Dortmund game as well. Pep was asked about why Julian Alvarez is not playing as often. That it seems that the journalists are also as intrigued by the fact that Julian Alvarez is not playing as much. And Pep told that yes, he can play out wide, but I want him through the middle. I want him through the middle. So I think there's a kind of adamant nature to Pep. And in a good way, not a bad way, in a good way, that Pep wants to play Julian Alvarez through the middle. So because Pep sees that's where he can utilize his best qualities, but through the middle, it's not possible now with Haaland in such scintillating form. So I mean, I can't help but think, in this international break, what could be the other alternative to Pep to play Julian Alvarez, because he just can't sit and say that I will play Alvarez to the middle or no, because Haaland, it's the amount of goals he's scoring and stuff like that through the middle, no chance as a striker. Okay, you can play false nine in a few games maybe, but then again, maybe one game here and there giving rest to Haaland. So what is the other alternative of putting Julian Alvarez regularly in this squad? Outward Pep doesn't prefer, because I mean I can understand Julian Alvarez's best qualities are pressing from the front. They're tracking down people. I mean going down on people from the front, tracking down people from an attacking point of sense, closing down people very fast. Whenever Julian Alvarez has played, if you check the stats for whatever time he has played, during that particular period of time, he has outrun everybody on the pitch. So his work rate is amazing. So he's an upgrade on Gabriel Jesus in terms of the work rate and stuff. I think the best position for Julian Alvarez is just behind Haaland. It's interesting that Julian Alvarez was actually compared to Sergio Aguero when he came here, but when you actually talk to the staunchest of the most loyal of long following of River Plate fans, they had a contrarian opinion when compared to what other people were thinking, that likened to Sergio Aguero. Most of the River Plate fans were telling that Julian Alvarez is a very rare kind of a player. He's an excellent striker, but he can play in them half spaces very well. Also, he's a Thomas Muller kind of a player. That was a very interesting comparison, because I haven't heard of anyone being compared to Thomas Muller in a long, long time. So that was very, very interesting for me. For me, he has shades of Roberto Firmino at his absolute best in terms of pressing, closing down players. He has shades of Thomas Muller in terms of going into the half spaces, in terms of quietly going behind the defenders and getting into those attacking positions. So for me, if you have a player who is a combination of Roberto Firmino and Thomas Muller, so where do you play him? He's playing them out wide, the best alternative, even though he has done well. No, so in this matter, you have to agree with Pep that Pep is not starting him as much. So the best position is just in behind Haaland for me, in those 4-4-1-1 position, which ironically happens to be the best position of Roberto Firmino and even Thomas Muller as well. Just in those half spaces, almost in kind of just behind the striker. That is the best position. So is there a vacancy there? Unfortunately, that's again a cause for a debate, because Ilkay Gundogan plays there. Ilkay Gundogan runs from the midfield, like Peter Dury said in that last match against Aston Villa last season. Gundogan's got that mischief to his game. So I think Pep has looked at both Alvarez and Gundogan, and yes, Alvarez has adapted very well to the team. So I will not accept the excuse here that new players take time to adapt to Pep system. That is nonsense. Alvarez, if you watch Alvarez play, it looks like Alvarez has been playing in Pep system even before he was born. So that's how good Alvarez is. Alvarez feels at home in this Pep system. So I mean, comparing Ilkay Gundogan and Julian Alvarez here, you would have to think that I think Pep sees that Ilkay Gundogan's clever runs from the midfield, at least right now, as more of an asset than Julian Alvarez playing in the half space and playing in behind Haaland and pressing and the work rate and all. That should be the only reason. And when Pep plays Bernardo Silva, it's for another cause. Pep wants to control the tempo of the game from deep and stuff. So the role Bernardo plays in the team is different from what Gundogan plays. So you can't compare that. But the most comparable role for me is what Gundogan does to Alvarez does, and I think right now the only reason could be, like I mentioned earlier as well, that Pep sees Gundogan's mischief as more of an asset than Julian Alvarez, more attacking vigor. Julian Alvarez, those qualities of just playing in between the center back and the defender. And also maybe I think Pep also sees Gundogan as more of that kind of a player who can do both those roles, when needed, when the opponent has that little periods like Wolves had for the first 15-20 minutes in the second half, right? Like we were almost suffering there. I was shit scared that we would concede a goal, and then 2-1 against 10-man team. They don't have anything to lose. We have everything to lose. They will be with the momentum and stuff. So Pep thinks in those kind of situations when we are under the cost for whatever little periods in the game, Gundogan can be more of an asset in terms of utilizing his intelligence in the midfield. And Julian Alvarez is not a midfield player like a Gundogan, right? He's more in terms of that. He plays in the half spaces, but he's inclined towards an attacking sense. So Alvarez might not offer you that protection in the midfield. Alvarez might not have that know-how on how to control the tempo of the game in the midfield like a Gundogan does. And I think that has to be the primary reason why Pep actually plays Ilkay Gundogan ahead of Julian Alvarez. So I know that even I am one of those fans who is almost every week disappointed a bit with Pep not starting, especially with Mahrez. Sorry, Pep not starting Alvarez, especially with Mahrez, being out of form on that right wing, and hopefully his form recovers after the international break because Mahrez can be an asset. With Pep shifting forward into the right, with Pep, playing Grealish more for his confidence. So literally, we haven't had a settled thing on either side of Haaland. So in those cases, I want Julian Alvarez to play, but I think Pep doesn't see Julian Alvarez as a wide player at all, unless it's an emergency. Pep sees him as a competitor with Gundogan, for example. So I actually think that Pep wants to introduce Alvarez into that role. So let us see how this progresses. But for me, the trust is on Pep. He has carved out so many rough diamonds into great sparkling beauties over the time of his stellar managerial career. So I trust Pep with whatever he wants to do with Julian Alvarez. And we have to remember that Pep has crafted one of the best false nines, the best player to play in those attacking half spaces that has ever been in the footballing universe in Lionel Messi. So Julian Alvarez for me, I wouldn't compare his talents and everything to Messi, but his thinking of the game is similar to Messi in that sort of a thing. So, and before Pep introduced Messi in that false nine role, Messi was put out on the wing and something like that, right? So I think you'll have to trust Julian Alvarez in this. Sorry, you'll have to trust Pep Guardiola in this approach with Julian Alvarez, especially with what he has done with Lionel Messi. And I might sound a bit odd and I might sound a bit controversial here, but I think in Julian Alvarez, you have a player who has the capability of trying to, I won't say he'll reach it, but trying to at least putting all his effort and trying to break the ceiling and reach where Lionel Messi went. I think that much is the talent of Julian Alvarez. Given that if Pep plays him in that half spaces in that false nine position, so the ceiling is very high. The talk is about Erling Haaland, but this guy will not be far behind in terms of competing for the Ballon d'Or when the time comes. In the next 1-2 years at least, I see Haaland and Julian Alvarez consistently in the top five at least for the Ballon d'Or nomination. So this guy has such a high ceiling. So let us trust Pep with whatever he wants to do with him. Again, thank you so much, guys, for joining me in this video. If you like the video, please click on the bell icon and subscribe button so that you get notifications whenever we come up with new videos. Thank you so much, guys, again for joining me, and take care and see you all again.